The leopard's muscles rippled under its golden coat as it crouched low, every breath sharp with hunger. Then, a rustle. From the undergrowth emerged a smaller shadow, eyes blazing with defiance, a bobcat standing its ground. For a heartbeat, the forest held its breath, rain-soaked leaves trembling as predator met predator. The leopard lunged, a blur of raw power, but the bobcat didn't run. It leapt straight at its face. What happened next would leave the entire jungle silent, forever. Before we reveal what happened when these two wild predators clashed, take a moment to join our journey. Hit that subscribe button and become part of the wild, where every story leaves your heart racing and your soul moved. The forest was alive, yet silent in its own language, a language of wind threading through leaves, of insects drumming faint rhythms on hollow bark, of unseen eyes watching from the darkness between ferns. It was a cathedral of green, older than memory, where shafts of gold sunlight pierced through canopies like divine spears, striking the mossy ground in trembling pools of light. Every breath of this place seemed thick with secrets, every shadow a whisper of something ancient. In that cathedral, a shape moved, a shadow detached from the darkness itself. The leopard. It glided forward, body low, paws pressing so lightly against the earth that even the dead leaves dared not crackle. Muscles rippled under the golden-black tapestry of its fur, a living sculpture of power sculpted by hunger. Its tail curled and uncurled like a serpent, balancing each step. The air was heavy with the musk of wet soil, the perfume of orchids hidden in the gloom, and beneath it all, a scent faint yet electric, a deer. The leopard's nostrils flared, drinking in the promise of meat. Its green eyes, sharp as carved jade, fixed on a break in the undergrowth where something moved with the slow, careless grace of prey. There it was, a young deer, slender and alone, grazing near the edge of a clearing flooded with sunlight. Its coat glowed like burnished copper against the emerald curtain of trees. Each mouthful of grass it chewed was a sentence in the poem of its ignorance. The leopard froze, as if the air had solidified around it. A single twitch of muscle could betray the hunt. It crouched lower, belly kissing the earth, ears tilting forward to catch every ripple of sound. Its heartbeat slowed, like a drum sinking into silence. The forest seemed to bow to this moment. Even the cicadas stilled. Even the wind dared not move the leaves. 3 days had passed since the leopard tasted flesh. 3 days of empty belly and claw marks on old trees where frustration spilled into rage. Rainstorms had erased the spoor of prey. The rivers had swallowed the scent of life. Hunger was no longer a growl in its stomach. It was a fire crawling through its veins, whispering madness. And now, the fire had a name. The deer. The leopard shifted one paw forward, then another, the movement so fluid it seemed poured from water. Every nerve, every sinew sang with tension. The world narrowed into a tunnel of prey and predator. One lunge, one perfect leap, and the silence would explode into death. But then, a sound. Soft, fragile, yet wrong. Not the crisp crackle of a twig under a bird. Not the sigh of wind slipping through leaves. It was sharper, like claws brushing against bark. A rhythm almost invisible, but the leopard heard it, because the hunter hears everything. The deer flicked an ear, but did not run. It grazed on, oblivious. The leopard's eyes darted toward the sound. Instinct warred with instinct. One voice hissed, "Strike now. Kill now, before the world steals this gift." Another whispered, "Wait, something is near." The leopard waited. Seconds stretched like roots burrowing deep. Then, from behind the gnarled roots of a strangler fig, the forest birthed another shape. Small, lean, eyes like molten amber, glinting through the green dusk. A bobcat. It slipped from shadow to light, a phantom no taller than a low branch, yet carrying a storm in its gaze. Tufted ears twitched like black flames as it stopped, head low, every line of its body screaming hunger. And then, it looked at the deer. For one heartbeat, predator stared at predator across a river of silence. The leopard blinked once, its pupils narrowing into knives. The bobcat did not blink. Instead, it padded forward, claws sheathed, but each step a sentence in a defiant poem. This should not be happening. The bobcat was smaller, weaker, carved for rabbits and birds, not deer. The forest law was clear: step aside, yield, survive. But the bobcat did not yield. It stood in a pool of golden sunlight, its fur haloed by fire, eyes fixed on the same prize. The leopard's lips peeled back in a snarl that rolled like distant thunder, shaking the silence. A warning. A promise. One blow would scatter the bobcat into broken ribs and silence. Yet the smaller cat did not move. Its ears flattened, its muscles coiled like steel wires, and for the briefest flicker of time, the forest felt something it had never known: doubt. The deer raised its head. Its dark eyes widened. And in that single second, the forest exhaled, and chaos began to breathe. The deer hesitated, its head snapping up, ears swiveling like radar dishes to catch the tremor in the air. One breath too long. One fraction of a heartbeat too late. The leopard exploded from the undergrowth like a shard of living gold, a storm of muscle and hunger tearing through green shadows. The world broke into sound. Thunder of paws, crackle of leaves, a heartbeat that beat like war drums inside the leopard's skull. The deer bolted, its hooves striking sparks of soil as it lunged toward the safety of deeper forest. Panic unspooled in every nerve of its body, but the leopard was faster, its strides eating distance like fire devours silk. Victory pulsed in its blood. One more leap, one slash of claws, and warm life would spill like sunlight across its teeth. But fate is not always written by strength. From the corner of its eye, the leopard saw it, a streak of russet fire slashing across the clearing. The bobcat. It came not as a whisper this time, but as a defiance forged in madness. In an instant too brief to hold, its body collided with the leopard's shoulder, a blow that was nothing and everything. Not enough to wound, but enough to break perfection. The leopard stumbled, just half a stride, just enough. The deer vanished into the cathedral of trees, its shadow melting into a maze of vines and thorns until it was nothing but a ghost of chance lost forever. The leopard's roar split the clearing, raw and jagged, a sound that did not belong to earth but to something older, something born in the marrow of rage. Birds erupted from branches in a hurricane of wings. Monkeys screamed from high canopies. The forest shivered under that sound. And the bobcat? It stood there, chest heaving, sides trembling. Its fur bristled into a storm. It had no right to survive what came next. It should have run when the leaves still whispered escape. But it didn't. It stared up at the beast it had stolen from, amber eyes hard as hammered bronze. For a breath, they were still, two predators carved from night and flame, bound by a silence louder than war. Then the leopard moved. It struck like a falling tree, one paw slicing the air with a weight that could crush bone. The bobcat dropped low, the blow missing by a whisper, tearing up soil in a spray of roots and leaves. Another strike came, faster, a golden blur. The bobcat twisted sideways, feeling wind brush its fur like knives. It rolled, came up crouched, lips peeled back in a snarl that showed teeth white as rain-polished stones. The leopard lunged again. This time, the bobcat didn't dodge. It sprang forward, up, not back, claws flashing like tiny crescents of moonlight. It raked across the leopard's muzzle in a streak of pain. Not deep, not deadly, but enough to draw a thread of blood that burned like betrayal. The leopard froze. Blood welled on its nose, warm and real. For a heartbeat, something like disbelief rippled through its green eyes. No creature so small had ever dared leave its mark. But disbelief turned to fury. The leopard roared, louder than before, a sound that cracked the air like thunder rolling through stone. The bobcat flinched, but didn't break. It pivoted, darting toward the massive trunk of a rain tree whose roots knotted like serpents. Its claws bit bark. Its body flowed upward in a blur of sinew and grit, higher, higher, until the leaves swallowed it whole. The leopard lunged after it, paws slamming against bark, but it was too big, too heavy for the vertical world of branches. It clawed at the trunk, snarling, its tail lashing furiously, as above, the bobcat clung to a branch, chest hammering, fur singed with dust and rage. For a long moment, they stayed like that, predator below, challenger above. The forest held its breath between them, the clearing carved into two kingdoms, earth and sky. The leopard tilted its head, green eyes burning like twin embers in the gloom. The bobcat stared down, teeth bared, its body trembling with exhaustion, but its gaze was unbroken. And in that gaze, something shifted. Not surrender, not even victory. Something deeper, a scar written in silence. The leopard stepped back at last, tail curling into a question mark. Its hunger had turned bitter, soured into something older than rage. a confusion that stung like smoke in the lungs. It walked away slowly, each stride heavy with the weight of a hunt undone. Above, the bobcat watched as the golden phantom melted into the emerald dusk, swallowed by the underworld of ferns and vines. Watched until only shadows remained. Then it sank low against the branch, breath tearing like silk, the taste of bark and blood in its mouth. Hunger still coiled in its belly like a serpent, more savage now than before. But under that hunger lay something new, a law rewritten. A truth clawed into the skin of the world. The forest bows to no single king. Night would come soon, and with it, storms of a kind neither beast could imagine. Night seeped into the forest like spilled ink, blotting out the gold of day, painting the leaves in shades of morning. The air thickened with damp earth and whispers, the kind of stillness that presses against your skin and makes even the smallest sound feel like a scream. The leopard lay curled in the hollow of a fallen tree, its body a sculpture of shadows streaked with the faint glow of moonlight. Muscles that once moved like liquid now trembled with exhaustion. Hunger burned hotter now, an ember in its veins, a steady ache that hollowed the world into nothing but need. It should have been feasting now. The deer should have been a memory clinging to its teeth, blood singing on its tongue. But fate had teeth sharper than its own, and they had bitten deep. The bobcat, that reckless, fire-eyed wraith. The memory of it replayed in fragments. The slash of tiny claws, the flash of amber eyes, the audacity burning hotter than fear. The leopard closed its eyes, but sleep would not come. Behind its lids, the green world writhed with old scars. It had fought hyenas for scraps. It had killed rival males that dared to trespass on its land. But never had something so small defied it so completely. And worse, it had won. Above the hollow, high in the canopy's dark cathedral, the bobcat crouched on a branch, tail wrapped tight, fur stiff against the night chill. Its chest still heaved from the storm of the day. Every muscle ached like broken stone, but it clung to the branch like a heartbeat clings to life. Hunger gnawed at it too, merciless and deep. The deer was gone. The fight had cost more than it gave. Yet it lingered, not out of arrogance, but because the forest beyond felt colder, emptier. As if something in its bones whispered, "Stay." The story isn't done. The hours stretched thin. The moon rose like a blade behind torn clouds. And then, a sound. Faint, sharp, wrong. A crack, not of a branch, not of prey. Something deeper, hollower, like the earth itself breaking. The leopard's ears flicked forward, catching the sound as it shivered through the dark. Another crack, louder this time. Then another, followed by a distant groan that trembled through the soil. The leopard lifted its head, muscles coiling. The bobcat froze, every hair on its spine lifting like spears. From the horizon beyond the trees, a glow bloomed, pale at first, then swelling, bleeding orange into the black. It pulsed, alive, devouring the sky in slow, terrible breaths. Fire. It began as a whisper of heat riding the night wind, curling smoke fingers through the leaves. Then it spoke louder, spitting sparks like venom, snapping branches with the hunger of a god unchained. Flames slithered up tree trunks, kissing bark with mouths of molten gold. The forest stirred in terror. Wings burst from canopies. Hooves drummed against the earth in wild avalanches. Monkeys shrieked as they leapt from burning limbs, their cries knifing through the chaos. The leopard sprang from its hollow, every nerve sparking white with instinct. Fire was no rival, no enemy to be fought. It was death in its purest mask. It bolted, weaving through shadows, muscles tearing through roots and vines. Smoke clawed its throat, scalding its lungs. Sparks rained like fiery insects, stinging its back, burning its whiskers. The heat came in waves, searing, suffocating, relentless. High above, the bobcat clung to its branch as flames climbed the trunk, licking closer, closer, their breath hot enough to blister skin. The canopy, its sanctuary, had turned to a pyre. The leaves shriveled, curling like fists before turning to ash. The branch beneath its paws cracked, brittle and screaming. The bobcat's world shrank into fire and sky. No path down, no path across, just the red river rising, and the wind keening with the voice of 1,000 ghosts. Below, the leopard burst into a clearing choked with smoke, its golden coat streaked black with soot, its flanks heaving like bellows. Around it, the inferno roared, a wall of teeth and tongues swallowing everything it loved and hated. Its world was dying, and it was too small to save it. And then, Through the hiss and howl of burning earth, a sound tore through the storm. Thin, raw, a scream carried on the breath of fire. Not the cry of a bird, not the squeal of prey. Something wilder, sharper, laced with terror. The leopard stopped dead. Its ears twitched toward the sound. Another cry came, higher this time, jagged as shattered glass. The leopard knew that voice. It had carved that voice into its bones with rage only hours ago. The bobcat, through the whirl of smoke and embers, its green eyes slashed toward the trees and saw it. A silhouette clinging to the skeleton of a burning branch, framed in fire like some fierce spirit caught between worlds. Its fur smoked, its claws slipped, and below, the ground was an ocean of flames, churning, ravenous. There was no way down, no way out. The leopard should have turned. Survival was a law it had never broken. But in that instant, something older than law stirred. Something buried in marrow and ash. And as the branch cracked like bone, the leopard moved. The branch screamed as it split, a jagged shriek swallowed by the roar of the inferno. Splinters flew like sparks. The bobcat's claws scrabbled for grip, its body twisting in terror as the world beneath turned molten. Fire clawed upward in tongues of orange and blue, each one a serpent racing to claim its prey. And then, the branch gave way. The bobcat fell. For one endless heartbeat, it hung in the air like a question too heavy for heaven, limbs flailing, eyes wide as molten coins. The flames surged to meet it, a cradle of death eager to close its jaws. But another shape tore through the smoke, a streak of gold, a blur of muscle and will, leaping from the edge of the clearing like a shard of the sun broken loose. The leopard. It hit the air in a bound so furious it seemed to tear gravity apart. For an instant, predator and fire and falling life collided in a single breath of eternity. The leopard's jaws clamped, not to kill, but to hold. Its teeth sank into the scruff of the bobcat's neck with the gentleness of thunder. They struck the earth together, hard enough to rattle the bones of the world. Pain lanced through the leopard's ribs, a lightning bolt of agony, but it ran. Through fire, through smoke, through a storm of embers that scalded its skin and bit into its eyes. Each step was a scream. Each breath tore like paper in its lungs. But it ran, the bobcat dangling from its jaws, its small body limp, its fur reeking of smoke and ash. Behind them, the forest burned like the end of time. Trees toppled with roars like dying gods. The sky turned red, a canvas painted in blood and flame. The earth itself seemed to cry as roots charred and creatures fled in avalanches of terror. But the leopard didn't look back. The inferno was a ghost now. The only thing real was the weight between its teeth. The tiny heartbeat it prayed was still there. And then, green. The flames thinned. The smoke loosened its grip. The leopard burst through a curtain of vines into a glade where fire hadn't yet kissed the earth. A stream curled through it like a silver ribbon, glinting under the cracked moon. The leopard staggered to the water's edge and collapsed, its body a shattered temple of burns and wounds. The bobcat slid from its jaws, landing softly on the mud. For a moment, there was only the hiss of water, the distant growl of fire devouring the world behind them, and the sound of two hearts, one beating like a drum, the other quieter. The leopard lowered its head, nosing the bobcat's flank. The small body stirred, just once, like a ghost refusing to leave its shell. Amber eyes fluttered open, glazed with pain and smoke. They met green eyes burning with something neither had known before, something not born from hunger or hate or the cold logic of survival. Gratitude? No. Something older. Something nameless. The bobcat tried to rise, but its legs folded like broken reeds. A sound slipped from its throat, thin as a whisper. The leopard pressed closer, its breath a warm shroud against the smaller cat's trembling body. It curled itself around the bobcat, pulling it close, shielding it from the creeping cold of the night, as if its own life were a wall against the darkness. Above them, the stars blinked through smoke, pale and broken. The stream whispered lullabies of a world that once was green. The fire's growl faded into the distance, leaving behind a silence too heavy to hold. When dawn bled over the horizon, soft and bruised, it found two shapes by the water, one great, one small, bound together in a curve of ash and gold. The leopard's breath came slow, each rise of its chest a mountain moved. The bobcat's eyes were closed, its tiny ribs barely stirring. And then, stillness. The leopard's head dropped onto the earth. Its emerald eyes dimmed like dying lanterns. The bobcat's body, fragile as smoke, sagged deeper into the curve of its savior's form. The stream kept singing, oblivious to the tragedy it cradled. By the time the forest breathed again, long after the flames had eaten their fill, long after the sky had wept its ash, the glade was empty. Only paw prints remained, pressed side by side in the mud like verses of a prayer left unfinished. And somewhere in the green cathedral that would rise again, perhaps in the wind that braided through the leaves, a truth lingered, a truth older than hunger, stronger than fire. Strength is not in the claws that kill. It is in the heart that leaps into flames for another life.